We stand at the edge of a precipice, looking down into the abyss of our own emotions, our impulsive desires, and our ever-fluctuating state of mind. The world around us is in chaos. It throws us into storms of fear, anger, sadness, and temptation, testing our every fiber. But amidst this relentless storm, there is one force, one anchor that can prevent us from being swept away. It is consistency. It is the power of self-discipline and the ability to respond, not react, with calm and purpose. The ancient Stoics, Seneca, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, understood this fundamental truth. Their lives were not guided by fleeting desires or the ebb and flow of fortune. They understood that, in the end, only one thing lies within our control, our response to the world. And they chose consistency. They chose self-mastery. They chose the path of those who, though battered by life's tempests, are never undone. They chose to be consistent, to face each day with the resolute determination that they could control themselves, no matter what else they could not control. This is a call to you, a call to walk the same path, to live with the fortitude of a Stoic, to force yourself to be consistent, not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. The battle within. There is a war waging within each of us. It is a silent, invisible war, fought not with swords or shields, but with thoughts, feelings, and actions. It is the war between our higher nature, our rational, disciplined self, and our base impulses, our desires, our emotions, our distractions. We are surrounded by constant temptation. The world lures us with instant gratification, with pleasures that promise relief from pain, that promise a quick escape from discomfort. We are told every day that it is easier to give in than to endure, that it is better to seek pleasure than to choose the hard path of discipline. But the Stoics saw through these illusions. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." We often believe that our struggles, our discomforts, our temptations are obstacles to be avoided. But the Stoics understood a deeper truth. The very obstacles we face are the means by which we strengthen ourselves. They are the crucible in which our character is forged. It is in these moments of inner turmoil that the Stoic is born. It is when we feel the surge of anger, frustration, or desire that we are tested. The temptation is to indulge, to let these emotions dictate our actions, to follow the impulse, to satisfy the need. But the Stoic knows better. The Stoic does not flee from discomfort. Instead, he embraces it, recognizing that in every moment of emotional turmoil, there is a chance to grow. When the wind howls, the Stoic tightens his resolve, standing firm against it. When the flame of anger flares within, the Stoic does not lash out, but examines the cause and chooses a response that aligns with virtue. When fear grips the heart, the Stoic does not cower, but meets it with the knowledge that fear is a passing shadow. This battle, the war within, is not won in grand gestures, but in the small daily victories. It is won by consistently choosing to act in accordance with reason, to act with self-control, to act with fortitude. This is the essence of Stoicism, to choose consistently what is good, even when it is hard, even when it costs us. The path to consistency. Consistency for the Stoic is not a matter of willpower alone. It is not enough to simply try harder. It is a matter of cultivating a deep sense of purpose, a sense of alignment with something greater than ourselves. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This mastery does not come from external success or the achievement of material wealth. It comes from within, from the daily practice of self-discipline, from choosing to do what is right, even when it is inconvenient. The Stoics understood that it is not enough to hope for consistency. It must be cultivated through deliberate practice. They did not believe in passive virtue, in waiting for the right moment or the right circumstances. They understood that in a world full of distractions, the most dangerous thing is the tendency to drift. To wake up one day and realize that we have allowed our passions to take the lead, to let ourselves be carried by the currents of life, instead of steering the ship ourselves. Consistency, then, is a conscious decision. It is the decision to act with intention. It is the decision to align our actions with our values, regardless of how we feel in the moment. Epictetus, perhaps the most famous Stoic teacher, famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is the core of Stoic practice, to choose how we respond, to control our reactions, and to consistently choose the virtuous course of action. To be consistent, we must be conscious of our actions. We must remind ourselves each day of what is truly important. We must make our decisions based on reason, not emotion. We must refuse to let fleeting feelings of anger, sadness, or frustration guide our actions. In this way, consistency becomes a form of inner freedom. We are no longer slaves to our emotions, to our whims, to our distractions. We become the masters of our own destiny, shaping our lives with every choice we make. The role of emotions. To be consistent, we must first understand our emotions, not as enemies, but as signals. They are not the masters of us. They are messengers, telling us something about ourselves and the world around us. The Stoics did not advocate for the suppression of emotions. Rather, they sought to transform their understanding of emotions, to master them, so that they no longer controlled their actions. One of the central tenets of Stoicism is the idea that emotions arise from judgments. If we judge a situation as threatening, we feel fear. If we judge it as unfair, we feel anger. If we judge it as a loss, we feel sadness. These emotions are not inherently bad, but they become destructive when we allow them to take control of our lives. A Stoic, then, does not seek to rid himself of emotions, but to transform his relationship with them. He examines his judgments, recognizes the role his beliefs play in shaping his feelings, and challenges those beliefs when they are misguided. For example, when we feel anger rising within us, the Stoic does not simply suppress it. Instead, he asks, "Why am I angry? What is the source of this emotion? Is it something I can control? Can I choose a different response?" By questioning our emotions, by examining our judgments, we can begin to regain control over them. We can learn to act in accordance with reason, even when our emotions threaten to overwhelm us. It is this mastery of emotion that allows the Stoic to remain consistent. When anger arises, the Stoic does not lash out. When fear arises, the Stoic does not cower. He acknowledges the emotion, but he does not let it dictate his actions. Instead, he chooses to act in a way that aligns with his values. The power of habit. Consistency is not a one-time decision. It is a daily practice. It is built through habits, the small actions we repeat every day, the choices we make when no one is watching. The Stoics understood that our character is shaped by the accumulation of our daily actions. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But this power over the mind is not something that comes overnight. It is cultivated through daily practice. It is cultivated through the habits we form. To be consistent, we must form habits that align with our values. We must build a routine that supports our goals. The Stoics' day is not one of random events, but one of intentional choices, made in accordance with virtue. Embracing the struggle. In the end, consistency is not about avoiding struggle. It is about embracing it. It is in the struggle that we grow, that we strengthen our resolve. The Stoics did not shy away from difficulty, they sought it out. They understood that the harder the battle, the stronger the warrior. We too must embrace the struggle. We must understand that every obstacle, every challenge, is an opportunity to become stronger, to become more consistent. We must not fear discomfort. We must welcome it as the forge in which our character is shaped. The path ahead. The path to consistency is not easy. It requires sacrifice, discipline, and a deep commitment to self-mastery, but it is the path that leads to true freedom. It is the path that leads to a life of purpose, of inner strength, and of lasting peace. The Stoics knew this, and they lived their lives accordingly. They did not seek fame, wealth, or power. They sought only one thing: to live virtuously, to act with consistency, to master themselves. And so, the challenge is before us. The question is not whether we will face obstacles, it is how we will face them. Will we succumb to our emotions, to our distractions, to the fleeting pleasures of the world? Or will we choose the path of the Stoic, the path of consistency, of self-discipline, and of inner strength? The choice is ours, and we must choose every day to be consistent. The Stoics' Guide to Consistency. In the quest for consistency, we are not simply striving for mechanical adherence to a schedule or rigid routines. Consistency for the Stoic is the alignment of our actions with our highest principles, the continual effort to act according to virtue. Virtue for the Stoic is the only true good. Everything else, wealth, fame, pleasure, can be taken away or corrupted. But virtue, the alignment of one's actions with wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, cannot be touched by fate. When we speak of consistency, we are not speaking of a blind repetition of behavior. We are speaking of deliberate action in the service of something greater than ourselves. To be consistent is to remain true to your values, day in and day out, despite the storms that may rage around you. It is to be a fixed point in a world that is in constant flux. In his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius writes, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." This retreat, this inner sanctum, is what the Stoics sought to cultivate. It is the ability to retreat into the calmness of reason, to center oneself in the midst of chaos. To be consistent is to create that inner retreat, where we do not allow external events to disturb our peace. It is to refuse to be swept away by fleeting emotions or circumstances beyond our control. Consistency in Stoicism does not mean being unfeeling or indifferent. It means recognizing that external events, whether positive or negative, are not what truly matter. What matters is how we choose to respond to them. A true Stoic acts in a way that is consistent with their inner values, regardless of the outward appearance of success or failure. The practice of virtue. To maintain consistency, we must practice virtue. And to practice virtue, we must first understand what virtue requires of us. Virtue is not an abstract concept. It is something that we live and embody in every action. We are constantly faced with choices, decisions big and small, that reflect our commitment to virtue. Seneca, in his Letters from a Stoic, writes, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." He understood that we often torment ourselves with fears of what might happen, rather than focusing on what is within our control. Consistency, then, begins with the practice of mindfulness. We must observe our thoughts, our emotions, and our reactions. We must become aware of when we are drifting away from our center and gently but firmly guide ourselves back to our core values. This is not an act of suppressing emotions, but of transforming them. When we feel frustration or resentment rising, We do not deny it. We acknowledge it, but we do not allow it to control us. Instead, we ask ourselves, what would virtue dictate in this moment? What is the best, most reasonable response? Fortitude in adversity. Stoicism teaches that the most important thing we can cultivate is fortitude. The ability to remain steady, even in the face of overwhelming adversity, is what allows us to remain consistent. Fortitude is not simply a matter of physical endurance, it is mental resilience, the capacity to endure psychological pain without losing one's integrity. The Stoics believed that adversity is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. In his discourses, Epictetus writes, "It's not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. It is not the events in our lives that cause us suffering, but our judgments about those events." If we can shift our perspective, we can find peace even in the most difficult circumstances. Consider the example of a soldier in battle. The soldier does not have control over the chaos of war, the noise, the danger, the fear. But the soldier does have control over his response to that chaos. He can choose to fight bravely, to act with courage, and to remain focused on the mission. In the same way, we face battles every day. Some are external, but the most difficult ones are internal. The battle with our own emotions, the battle with procrastination, the battle with fear of failure. And in each of these battles, the Stoics' weapon is fortitude, the strength to persevere, to stay consistent in our efforts, and to maintain integrity regardless of the outcome. The role of reflection in consistency. For the Stoic, consistency is not just about action, it is about constant reflection. In fact, consistency is largely built on the habit of self-examination. Marcus Aurelius was known to regularly reflect on his day, to look back on his actions and decisions, and to ask whether they were in line with his higher principles. Reflection is the key to growth. It is how we learn to adjust our course when we stray from our path. It is how we build the habit of consistency. Every day the Stoic asks themselves, did I act in accordance with virtue today? Did I allow my emotions to guide my actions, or did I remain guided by reason? This process of reflection is vital for maintaining consistency because it forces us to confront our failures and learn from them. Seneca writes, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." In the same way, if we do not reflect on our actions and understand our true goals, no amount of effort will bring us closer to our ideal life. Reflection allows us to clarify our purpose and ensures that our actions are consistently moving us toward that purpose. Consistency in the face of failure. The Stoics' commitment to consistency does not waver in the face of failure. Indeed, failure is an inevitable part of life. It is part of the struggle. Yet what distinguishes the Stoic is the way in which they respond to failure. Rather than allowing failure to defeat them, they view it as an opportunity to grow, to refine their character, and to realign their actions with their purpose. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius writes, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is the essence of the Stoic attitude toward failure. When we encounter obstacles, we must ask ourselves, what can I learn from this? How can I use this challenge to strengthen my resolve? To be consistent, we must expect failure. We must anticipate setbacks because they are part of the process. What matters is not that we fail, but how we respond to failure. Do we allow it to defeat us, or do we use it as fuel for our perseverance? Cultivating inner peace through consistency. The ultimate goal of Stoic consistency is inner peace. When we align our actions with our highest values, we are free from the tyranny of external circumstances. We are no longer slaves to our emotions, our fears, or the judgments of others. We are free to act with purpose and clarity, regardless of the outcome. Marcus Aurelius again provides a profound insight. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The Stoics' commitment to consistency leads to a profound inner peace, because it arises from the understanding that we cannot control external events, but we can always control our response to them. The legacy of the Stoics. The Stoics were not just philosophers, they were practitioners of life. Their teachings were not meant to be academic exercises, but practical guides for living with virtue, consistency, and fortitude. Their legacy is a testament to the power of Stoic philosophy to shape lives, to build inner strength, and to inspire greatness in the face of adversity. When we choose the path of Stoicism, we choose the path of those who have gone before us, those who faced suffering, loss, and hardship, yet remained steadfast. We choose the path of those who, through consistent action, transcended the limitations of their circumstances. As we face the challenges of our own lives, let us remember the words of Epictetus. First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Consistency is the bridge between who we are and who we aspire to be. It is the force that transforms us from passive observers of life to active participants in shaping our destiny. The final test. Now, the question is, will we answer the call? Will we commit to consistency, to self-discipline, to inner strength? Every day presents us with the opportunity to choose the path of the Stoic, to face the world with courage and resolve. Consistency is not a trait that we are born with. It is a skill that we must practice day in and day out. It is the act of aligning our actions with our highest values, even when the world around us seems to be falling apart. It is the courage to stay true to our purpose, even when we are tempted to stray. This is the Stoic way, and this is the challenge that lies before us. Will we rise to meet it? Will we choose the path of consistency, the path of self-mastery? Only time will tell, but let us begin today. Let us begin now. The storm may rage, but we will remain steady. We will choose to be consistent, and through that consistency, we will find our strength.